We're recording the interview of Mortenous Johnson. This is the interview being conducted by Erica Carter from the Wright State University Veterans Voices Project. This interview is being recorded at Wright State University in the New Media Incubator. It is 9:32 a.m. on October 11th, 2018. Hi.
Hi, Erica.
How are you?
Fantastic.
Wonderful. That is so wonderful. Where and when were you born?
Brooklyn, New York, 1962.
Okay. Who were your parents and what were their occupations?
Parents, Emma Jane Johnson, maiden name Gibson, father, Gordon Alexander Johnson. He was born in Washington, D.C., and my mom was born in South Carolina.
Okay.
Occupations, my father worked in the garment district, transporting goods to various locales in New Jersey, New York. And my mom she was a stay-at-home mom.
Okay. Do you have any siblings?
I do.
And did they serve?
And yes, my youngest brother served. He's, as he informs me, he's still a Marine.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Sister's brother's name?
Sister, Diane. Brother, Charles Hoyt. Youngest brother, Dwayne.
Okay, and that's Dwayne is who served?
Yes.
All right, all right. Did he follow in your footsteps?
Nope.
He did that all on his own?
All on his own, yes, yes.
What were you doing before you entered the service?
I was a second year undergrad. That's why I was in school.
What school?
I was at Morgan State University in Baltimore, Maryland.
What made you want to go into the service?
Good question. So here's some irony. I remember, and I still remember this, had a course, kind of critical analysis, critical thinking course for undergrads, and topics, right, range of topics. I chose at the time why blacks should not join the military. And so I went through my research and came up with a number of positions, data supporting those positions, and gave my presentation. Did fairly well. And then ironically, at the end of my fall semester of studies, my father passed. So here I am, trying to figure out I was 19 at the time, figure out, so what do I do next? School is inevitable, that's gonna happen. But just trying to figure out how to maneuver through. My mom passed when I was a freshman in high school. So still trying to just figure out some things. So I remember leaving campus and walking downtown. This is Baltimore, Maryland. I will never forget this. And I walked past a recruiter's office. And I said to the gentleman, it was a Navy guy, talk to me a little bit about service, because I think I understand that you will help pay for college. He said, yeah, of course. So he goes through the spiel, and I stopped him. I said, look, I'm a grown man. I don't need all of that. I just have 3 questions for you. 1, will you pay for me to go to school? Yes. I said, great. Then 2, that means I can take care of my family. So he looked at me strangely, right? And if I can take care of my family, that means I have a paycheck. Sign me up. So he said, well, what is this thing about the family? You married? I said, no. He said, but my girlfriend is going to school and she's back home in Brooklyn. And she's in school. And if you could do those 3 things for me, yes, I'm gonna get married. And I'm gonna move through and take advantage of every opportunity that I can. So we go through the MEP station. This is hilarious to me. This is funny. Maybe not to the masses, but my brother-in-law, who to this day I consider my surrogate dad, a very, very close relationship, he and I have. He's a Navy guy. So we're at the MEP station. Lo and behold, a gentleman comes from out of nowhere and says to me, hey, what are you doing here? So while I'm getting ready to sign up, do the Navy thing, he says to me, wait a minute, you are in school at Morgan State. Now, here's the connection. This gentleman is the brother of a colleague that I had at the time when I was working while in school at Maryland National Bank. He says, look, I understand you're going to get married. He said, if you go in the Navy, you're going to be on a boat. And you're going to get whatever job they give you, and I don't think you want to do that. Come with me. We walked down the hall. Reggie is the Air Force recruiter. In a moment in time, all of these things just changed. Long story short, I then become an Air Force guy. Navy guy's not happy. He's a recruiter. I get the numbers game. He's not happy. He threatens to leave me at the MEP station and says, well, get back as the best way that you can. And I made a phone call, and now we're in Baltimore, right? So we were at BWI. So I called my brother-in-law, who worked for the FAA. And I told him, I said, come get me, because this guy is blah, blah, blah. And so, long story short, in a moment in time, right, all the planets aligned however they do. And I became an Air Force enlistee.
Did you, you were already at MEPS, you went and talked to the recruiter. Did you join that day?
That same, I think if my memory serves me, I think I did. I think I may have done all the paperwork. No, I couldn't have done that. I probably had to come back. I probably had to go back because I have to change all my paperwork from Navy paperwork to Air Force paperwork. So I had to make all those kinds of changes. I did. That's exactly what happened. And so
the Air Force recruiter didn't try to get you home?
I told him I was okay.
Okay.
Reggie, I told him, don't worry about it. My brother-in-law works right here at BWI. I'm fine.
Okay.
So I hung out with my brother-in-law for that. I sure did. I hung out with him until his shift was over, and then we drove back home, talking, chatting, and really that drive back home was about reinforcing what my plan was going to be. Right?
And your brother-in-law, so this is your sister's husband?
That is correct.
Okay, and how much older was he?
Oh, he is 10, no, more than 10, 15, 12 or 15 years older. My sister's older.
Okay.
We have older siblings, yeah.
Okay. All right, so it's great that he was there for
Oh,
you.
absolutely.
And very helpful. And
Oh, solid,
it sounds like you're very happy with your decision to join the Air Force.
Yeah, you know, so yes, of course. Because it was a part of a plan, right? Resources, it would allow for me to do exactly what I wanted it to do for me. And in turn, right, I was going to give back service to the country. So, you know, that symbiotic relationship, right? Those kinds of things are necessary when you think it through. But it wasn't about some of the other kinds of stories that I've heard from other veterans. But for me, it was about a means to an end and taking advantage of the opportunities that were available to me, coupled with, a service to the country that I would not truly understand until I got older.
Okay, I have a question.
Sure.
You wrote this paper that said African Americans should not be in
That's
the
right.
service.
Absolutely.
And then shortly after that, you joined.
Right.
What in your paper, I guess your paper wasn't that persuasive to you, or was it your father in that situation that made you go, no, I got to do something?
Great question. No, that's a great question, right? Because you can see the conflation, right? And the persuasion of rationally why those points would sound for me. And I had those conversations within my family anyway, right? Historically, why we should not serve, why it was not in the best interest to serve. And that, again, those were sound, rational arguments. I took an approach of recognizing and understanding what that construct of military service would be in terms of benefiting me.
Okay.
Right? So,
color aside,
you know,
I need this for me.
For me, right? So thinking through the three questions that I asked the recruiter, right? First, this will facilitate the completion of my undergraduate education. So bottom line, it was what resources available to me that's going to help me advance my personal professional agenda. And if I do that, right, then my give back then would have to be my physical service to the country in order to get that. So that's okay. And then coupled with my ability then to have a firm set income that would allow me to take care of my family, which would become my family.
Okay, and how did girlfriend at the time feel about you joining? Was she on board?
That was yes, great. Another great question, because she looked at me like, you, the radical one, you of all people, really? 35 years later, that young lady is still here. So fully supportive, totally supportive of what I wanted to do, and appreciative of her support and her generosity, because she made, as a sophomore then in college, she made a decision to hold back her educational pursuits, right? To say, okay, one, I'll get married, and two, the little bit that I know about service, I'll go with you. So she was way and still way smarter than me. Yeah.
Okay, so you came in enlisted. You go off to basic?
Go to basic.
Tell me about that.
So basic was interesting. I'm there. Remember, I'm 19. I'm 19 years old, and I will say this: my parents and my family structure, as a whole, I'm fully domesticated. Meaning, I know how to make my bed. I know how to keep my clothes, you know, in good repair. I know how to take care of myself. I'm accustomed to appropriate hygiene. And I was in the barracks, right, with fellas who had never made their own bed, who had never washed clothes, who had never done the range of things that I, you know, just knew that everyone does, right? This is common, right? Not so common. So that was interesting. I remember the first week or so, lined up, and we're marching to and fro, and the TI, right? Yeah, TI. He looks at me and says, "You, come here. You in the front, get in the back. You get up front." In that moment, I became a squad leader. Based on my ability to march, I just, you know, that was my initial thought, right? So maybe in hindsight, it was that training instructor, right? He apparently noticed something from a leadership standpoint, and I could be making this up, I don't know. But I think he noticed something, and I became a squad leader. That was wonderful, because that gave me an opportunity to look at things and begin to appreciate the differences, and to, at 19, right, to still not be overly critical of other folks who may not have had the kinds of experiences and exposures that I had. So it was good. I was accustomed to a kind of diversity, right? And in my family, we talked about, and still do, diversity of thought, right? Like thinking through and understanding where folks are in their space, and recognizing and respecting difference, right? You don't have to necessarily agree with folks, right? But respect with people where they are. And that's not about kind of cowing down to folks in those positions, man. You got to stay rooted in your belief structure, right? Stay rooted because integrity is important. So you stay rooted in those things, but still be open and listening to other folks. Kind of keep some harmony and some balance. But as I'm going through that basic training experience, I remember this. This was funny story, right? I was am a member of a historically black fraternity, Phi Beta Sigma fraternity, and so I have my traditional brand, and I remember the TIs when we were doing PT saying, "Hey, yo, come here." What is that on your arm? What are you, in some kind of gang? Brooklyn? I'm like, oh, here we go. So, I made no issue of that. I guess now that would consider hazing, right? I don't know, whatever. So I explained to him very briefly, right? So no, this is in long-standing honor tradition. This is not mandatory. No, it's a whole ceremony, this, that, and the third. He looked at me strangely. Whatever, get back in line. Here we go, right? So, I'm like, okay. Power structure I'm seeing playing out. People don't necessarily believe or think the way you do. Okay, whatever. I have to now get my head wrapped around what this military life now is like and going to be. At one point, I asked myself, what the hell did I just do?
And this is during basic?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. What did I just do? Because now I'm in which would have been my spring semester of school, right? And I'm in San Antonio, Texas, right? That's where we are, the gateway to the Air Force. And that 6 weeks, 6 weeks of basic was interesting. It was interesting. I met a couple of, I'm gonna call them friends. I mean, you're there in that space. But I met some guys. We bonded. And then, of course, at the completion of basic, you go wherever you're gonna go, where we affectionately call Uncle Sugar, right? Wherever he sends us, that's where we're going, right? So at that point, folks and relationships kind of dissolve, and then you move on. And I never saw any of those guys in my 10-year span of service. I've never seen any of them again. Maybe they're out there now, right? Yeah. So anyway.
Okay. What, you guys go to job training next?
Yes.
What job did you have?
Keesler Air Force Base. So they signed me up for this thing called a Morse systems operator. So we get to Biloxi and pick them up, put them down, pick them up, put them down. So we drop these duffel bags. And then they send a group of us to this far left of the base, right? The campus, the barracks, the area where we're staying. So all of you, I forget the number code that we had, which identified your job. I forgot that number. But they yelled out the number, and someone says, yeah, all you diddy boppers, over here. So a couple of, and with some wonderful experiences I had there. Because at this point in July of that year, my wife and I, my wife, beloved, we're married. We're living off base, a nice little studio apartment. We tried to make it as Brooklyn-ease as we could, right? That was hilarious. That was a lot of fun, though. But I had some good experiences. So one thing that I wanted to do, because I saw some guys drilling, so I became a member of our unit's drill team. So
Can you explain?
Sure. We drill, right? Performance drilling, marching.
Okay.
And we competed against other squadrons.
Okay.
So that was a lot of fun because I had a chance to do something outside of just class all day, study if you needed to, go back. Now remember, I'm married, so I'm going back home, right? Go through that process and go back and, 5, 7, monotony. That wasn't going to work for me. So I was able to stay on the yard a little while, create some relationships with guys, and go through drill. I was a DI, so I was a drill instructor, so I was teaching other guys how to march and drill for performance. And then I became a drill master, red rope, I remember that. That was cool. And so I did that while I was there. So a lot of fun times. A couple of fellas that I met during that experience, we still have communications and relationships to this day. We still talk. And so a lot of fun. Long time I was there, Biloxi, Mississippi. Met some challenges while I was there, but
3 months, 6 months, a year?
April, whatever, April through November, whatever it seemed like a year. It seemed like that was the longest period of stay in my life. There were some things that happened, we talking Biloxi, Mississippi in the early 80s. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. I lived in Maryland. My family's from South Carolina. I've got stories, narratives from grandparents, experiences in South Carolina as a child that I witnessed. So I'm not naive to the South of the 80s, especially in the Deep South. That's.
You made it through.
That's respectfully, I guess you peaked that, right? You caught that, didn't you? Yeah, that's a moment in time that I typically don't talk about.
Well, let's move on.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you have any other specialized training? So you were drill instructor. You made it through AIT, safe and sound.
Yeah. With honors.
With honors. I wouldn't have expected anything less.
Oh, that's really kind of you. Here's another one.
Okay.
And a marksmanship medal.
Okay.
So I take a lot of pride in that, right? A marksman. So I came out of basic training with 3 ribbons. So, that's not the norm.
No. Okay. Did you have any other school training, or was the next thing your first duty station?
First duty station.
And that was where?
Chick Sands, RAF Chick Sands in England.
England. Packed up the wife, moved to England.
Yeah, on the other side of the pond.
Oh, that's got to be a different experience from Brooklyn.
Well, see, so that's interesting that you say that. Yes, we arrive. I'm not unaccustomed to open space and fields, but this is what I do remember. The first time we went to London. So we take the train, the tube, right? And
Who's we?
My wife and I.
Okay.
Yeah. So she and I, we're travelers. We do enjoy life. So we catch the train, we take the tube, we get down to Trafalgar Square. So we merge, right? And we're standing there and we're looking up and we're looking around and we looked at each other and said, this is just like Times Square. The lights, the flash, the movement, the people, right? So we didn't feel out of place, right? So largely cultural differences, but no huge language barrier. That's a big thing, right? When you go abroad, can you communicate with folks? So that was not a major issue for us. So England was a wonderful experience for us, not only from the standpoint of in my service working in the Electronic Security Command, which is now, I think it's Space Command or whatever it's called now. I have no idea.
Space Command?
Space Command. I don't know what it's called now,
Okay.
but Cyber Command. I don't know what it's called. But doing some real good work, and I was really excited about the work that we were doing in a joint operation capacity, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. It was exciting work. I had an opportunity to see at the low level, right? What happens in the world, and what does all of this mean? How do you reconcile the position of the United States with regards to security and our sovereignty, and then relationships with other countries, right? And what does that look like, and how does that feel, and living in the community, and then talking to neighbors who had appreciations for America, and World War II experiences, because our neighbors, I remember them older. We would sit and have tea with them and chat about their lives and how they were either influenced by and or supported by America during that particular time. So a lot of stories in there, right? But again, as a young guy, still able to think through and kind of figure out, like, wow, this is what's happening to me. This is what's going on in my life, and this is pretty cool. The other thing was because I didn't have to, jokingly, right? I didn't have to strap on a 45 or carry an M16. It gave me a kind of different perspective about the military. I played football while I was there.
For the Air Force?
For the Air Force, right? And that also allowed for some travel, right? That was cool, especially when kids are hanging on the fence and, wanting your autograph, right? That was kind of weird. But at the same time, here I'm now a 20-year-old, right? That was like, oh, this is pretty cool, right? And American football is just beginning to be launched, right, in Europe, right? The NFL is doing this big thing. So, kids didn't know what to think or what to believe, right? So that was cool. So I had those kinds of experience. Coupled with then, I was also take a couple of classes while I was there.
College classes?
College courses, yeah. And to this day, I do regret, because the opportunity was available for us to take a course at Cambridge, and I didn't do that. You should never regret, right? But just think through when you had an opportunity, then going forward, you should always take advantage of those kinds of things, because you never know when it's going to happen again, right? So a wonderful 3-year experience while I was there, some deep relationships, got a chance to see some things that I probably wouldn't, I know I would have never seen had I not had that experience. So a lot of fun. And when I say experience, right, it's not the travel part, because that's something that my family, we do that, right? But the work, right, coupled then with the other experiences associated with that would have not happened. There's no way I would have left the United States, gone to Europe, worked in Europe, played football, take a course, 3-4 courses, right? That would have not happened, But so I'm glad that I made that decision.
And your wife, was she working, or she's just taking classes?
Yeah,
and
no, she did.
traveling?
Yeah, good question. No, she did the same. She worked on a yard, and she took classes. So we were vested in our plan, and the plan was about using whatever resources we could to advance our agenda, and that was, look, we're here to do this and we're here to finish. So yeah, so it was wonderful.
What is the yard?
Oh, I'm sorry. The yard. That's the base.
Okay.
The base, right?
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. So you finish your 3 wonderful years
Yes.
In England,
Yes.
and where do they station you next?
Wright Pat Air Force Base.
We're here.
Yeah, I'm here, right? So stories. This is wonderful, right? Your narrative, right? Your life. So I get my orders, and there's a gentleman, Charles Lee. Charles Lee is from Michigan. So we have these codes. He says, "Oh my gosh, you're going to Wright Pat." So I'm like, what's a Wright Pat? What is that? Johnson, everyone's last name, right? Johnson, you have no idea. I said, no, what's Wright Pat? What is Wright Pat? He says, look, you got one of the best assignments. He said, and you're going into education. So I'm like, okay, whatever. I said, let me get my bearings here. So they had the huge CONUS map on right outside of the office. So I walk out the office. You got to go to right the A spot. So I go home, right? Boom, Brooklyn, New York, right? So I travel the map across and over. And I said in the hallway, oh, hell no. Y'all sending me to Kentucky, right? Johnson, get in here. He says, listen, you're out of, you know, your this work that you're doing up on the Hill. You're not doing that anymore. Says they don't have a flight line. It's a big logistics center. It's a huge base, and you're going to the Air Force Institute of Technology. You're going to the Air Force's graduate school. You're going to be working in a university Monday through Friday, 7:30 to 4:30, whatever you're going to be working with civilians, and the only difference is that you are a military member working alongside of civilians. At some point, it's probably not even going to feel like you're in the military anymore, other than the pomp and circumstance that we have to go. He was giving me like all of the nuanced nuggets, right?
And this is Charles Lee?
This is Charles Lee.
And what's
Charles.
his rank?
Charles was I know he was a staff sergeant. He wasn't I think he was a tech sergeant, E6, but I know he was an E5.
And you
sure.
were about an E4 by
I
now?
was a senior airman, so it was like E3. I think that was E3. Yeah, E3, E4, something like that.
Had you
That's right.
extended your contract in order to stay in, or how long did you sign up for?
So yes, that's right. I said my first enlistment was for 4 years.
Okay.
So yes, stories, right? All of these things come back when you get prompted, right? This is wonderful. Another gentleman from Biloxi, Mississippi. Hawthorne, Thorn, if you're out there. Hawthorne. We were sitting around Hawthorne. There was 4 or 5 cats, Daryl, Breeze, Peyton, myself, another gentleman. It was 4 or 5 of us. It was basketball and football team, right? Athletes, right? Talking about what we used to be. and Thorne he raised up and said, boys, we're stuck. All of us are gonna re-enlist. All of us. We thought that through for like a hot second. It was like, you know what, you're absolutely right. So hence re-enlisting, coming back. I took a 4-year enlistment, came back to the States. I'm now at AFIT, doing my thing.
Hold on.
Yeah, please.
You're moving quickly.
Oh, go ahead.
So travel from England to Ohio.
To Ohio.
To Ohio. You get settled in. Can you walk me through what an average day was? Just your day started at, and then it ended at.
Yeah. So yeah.
You mean
just
you had
as
lunch?
Charles predicted. Air Force Institute of Technology, Air Force's graduate school. I worked in registrar's office, admissions. Yep. And then at the end of my experience, I would then work for the Dean of Systems and Logistics. And it kind of, this makes sense to most, right? Like in an supportive admin role to the Dean. And the workday was 7:30. Coding and updating records in the registrar's office, ensuring that paperwork was appropriate, data was accurate, lunch, PT, gym time, stay fit, finish your day at 4:30, go home, or back to the gym, or in my case, school.
You're at AFIT.
AFIT.
AFIT. And you're, now you're taking classes there also?
No, I'm taking classes. I took courses at a community college for gen ed courses, right, that would then blend into my baccalaureate degree program at Wilberforce University.
Okay.
which is in Ohio, which is the nation's first private historically black university.
Was that a big change for you?
No,
No. Felt right at home.
it felt right at home because remember, this is a part of the plan, right? Part of the plan is to finish school. And you use every resource available to you in order to do that.
Did you have to come out of pocket anything, or was it?
So that's good question. Remember, so then I remember there was an opportunity to, you didn't set aside money, but there was a way in which you could, I think you could set aside monies in order for you to offset your education costs when you either separated or retired. And I knew my plan was, nope, I'm doing this right now. So for the rank structure, it was 75% tuition reimbursement or 90%, right? So my option was take gen ed courses that I needed. At the time, I was at 75% until I got promoted to E5, and then it was 10%. So I only had to pay 10% out of pocket. I decided it was important for me. My wife is a full-time student now because we're back in States, right? I work part-time.
What job was that?
I worked at a local restaurant. I worked at a childcare center doing maintenance, cleaning their building in the evenings. I did, as they said, and most people will do, you do what you have to do in order to move your agenda and to take care of your family. That's what I did. And I have a dear friend to this day who also at that time was my supervisor, who is a phenomenal brother. Very dear to me to this day. As a matter of fact, he and I had dinner last week. He worked in that same space right along with me, doing the same kind of thing.
Okay. You working for the Air Force, you got this second job, and you're going to school full time. Did you sleep?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Sleep is overrated. No, right? No, you manage it. You manage your time, right? You manage your clock. You manage your time. There are things that you have to do. So you study in the evenings. You spend a lot of weekends in the library. Now remember, here's the beauty of our situation, right? Like we had no children, so we had a dog, right? But we had no children, so we could afford to figure out what our lives were going to look like, and we did early in the game. We decided that date nights, and to this day we have still established Friday night is a family night. So we don't schedule anything on Friday, and that's our time to do what we do, and now with family, right? So, it's about structure, right? It's about planning. How do you want to maximize moments in order to take care of you, take care of your family, take care of your loved one, and cherish those moments along the way. Equally, checking off the boxes, right, to achieve your goals and whatever your aspirations are.
When did you graduate from Wilberforce?
I finished my undergraduate degree in 93, and my official graduation is, once a year, so in 94.
How much longer did you have on your contract at that time?
So, interesting, right? So I'm in school. I had the extension because I had had some wonderful opportunities. I was named AFIT's non-commissioned officer of the year, consecutive times. That had never happened before. I had the honor and privilege of being nominated for one of the 12 outstanding airmen of the Air Force, twice. I still say y'all made a mistake, but everything happens for a reason. I'm grateful for the opportunity to have been selected and nominated. That is dear to me. I don't talk about that much either. Wow. Anyway, at the same time, my beloved, she was nominated for the Air Force Joan Orr Wife of the Year. So I believe we did the kinds of things that not only did our family right, instill in us in terms of service, giving back, right, and trying to do the very best that you can in life, with your life, but also working within the military structure and the Air Force's way of thinking around family support, around being a good airman, aligning accordingly, and doing just the very best that you can as an ambassador of the United States, right, of sorts, and at the same time being that kind of person in the community that folks would say, okay, there's some values there, there's some character traits there that are worth emulating. And in no way do I ever suggest that you're on the status of deity, right? But I think it's just about being genuine and being authentic that allows for people to see those kinds of potentials in you, and they say, hey, yeah, go forward. So a lot of I don't think about these things anymore. This is amazing to me. Basically, I guess I need to go in that box, right, and start pulling out some things and look at my history. So anyway, a lot of good things happen, a lot of wonderful experiences. I had to, because of those nominations, I had to extend my enlistment. And that's why I have this like 10.5 years of military service, because I had to extend. So in 1994, I received orders, or it might have been it may have been in 93. But Mount Pinatubo blew up. And this was in the Philippines, Clark Air Base. I had an assignment to go there. That didn't happen. That was like, oh wow, the planets aligned for us. Unfortunately for folks who were there, that's I don't want to sound insensitive, but we didn't get that assignment. I had another assignment to Italy, and both of those assignments were in my former career field, right? Morse systems, right? Which I really didn't. I enjoyed that work, but I really didn't want to do that. And I guess I had been somewhat, what's the word? Coddled is not right. It'll come to me. Good friend of mine told me, he said, yeah, all those words in your head, when you get older, you're going to forget all those words. So anyway, thank you, Jack Bennett. But anyway, didn't get those assignments, and didn't want to go back because I had become accustomed and comfortable with that daily life of, right, morning, afternoon, lunch, right? It just became like, this is pretty cool. So I didn't want to go back to shift work. I didn't want to go back to those long hours. I didn't want to go back to the stressors associated with the form of work, albeit exciting. So I didn't take those opportunities. So I went to Colonel Welch, Paul Welch, smart, thoughtful, a good mentor. In addition to him was Colonel Rohrbach, another good leader, whose sense of family and commitment was deeply understood. We talk about military-minded, yes, but they had a unique way of blending that with family. Chief Charles Leaf, from Manhattan, Chief. If you're out there, yeah, you're one of those unsung heroes. He was very supportive of me as that voice and a senior member of the base who you could talk to, and in a way that you didn't have to worry about rank. So those kinds of folks around me, I was able to write my letter, give it to Colonel Welch, who supported me leaving the service. Because, as he said, you've done great work, decorated, honorable service, and you finished your college degree. Whatever it is that you want to do, not only can you do it, but I support you, and what I can support you is signing your letter. And I separated. In that same year of 1994, I was hired in a brand new position at a local community college.
What college was that?
Sinclair Community College
Okay.
in Dayton, Ohio.
And what position was that?
I was their coordinator for minority student retention.
How long did you do that?
I served in that position for 3 years, and then I was promoted.
Two.
I was the admissions officer for cultural diversity and the director of their Young Scholars program. I completed my master's degree
In that time.
in that time at the University of Dayton. And in 1998, I was selected as a Kellogg Fellow, which that allowed me to not only get mentorship and exposure to the workings of higher education, but also travel to various colleges, community colleges in particular, to understand the nuances of higher education, the policy requirements, the organizational structure, curriculum and instruction, right? The full scope of a necessity to become a college president, which was my goal. And I was working toward that.
That is so impressive.
Well, I thank you. There's a lot of people who can't name them all, but I can say for a fact that my family, without question, the milestones and achievements of those with multiple degrees, to include Harvard, a number of HBCUs, those experiences, right? One family member at NYU, so those kinds of experiences and exposures. But in my professional space, I think about, and she has passed and transitioned, Dr. Edna LaJoyce Neal, phenomenal mentor. Dave Ponitz. Then see, this list will get too long. Gene Jacobs, Jonas, Steve Jonas from upstate New York. That list gets long. My dear friend and my brother, Dr. Glenn Walter, who is phenomenal. This list continues to grow. Charlie Rousseau in my master's program at UD. Long list of people. So my credit, in part, their support, their push, their nuanced ways of helping me see that I could continue to do what I wanted to do and help me achieve those milestones. So yeah, it was just phenomenal. Then I was promoted again.
Before we get into what that promotion was, did the family grow yet besides the dog?
Nope.
Nope, still?
No. I have, here's my joke, and I hope that, I mean, this is archived, right? So this is like forever. So do you ever want to say this? No, my beloved, she, and the joke is, you know, I found the only Latina who didn't want children, right? That's the joke, right? But she is a quality, nurturing, smart, insightful woman. We've known each other since we were 12 and 13. So she knew what she wanted, and she knew what she didn't want. And part of that storyline, if I may share respectfully, I don't think she would mind, that she, like most older siblings, played a role in the caretaking of younger siblings while growing up. Her father passed the year after my mom passed. So we went through that whole experience together with one another. So she decided that she did not want, and I was cool with that because I didn't want children either. My joke is, you know, me, that's enough. One of me is more than enough. But it not having our own children allowed for us to do a number of things, right? giving time to the community, a lot of volunteer work. She's an educator now. She's been an educator for a while. Elementary ed, she's certified, you know, principalship. She's doing that now. She's worked summer programs, science programs. She's done a number of things. So she's in that space. She's really deeply in that space. So to not have your own physical children is one conversation, but she would tell you she has 20, 25, and then one time she had about 30 kids in a class, urban school district, every year. So she gets her fill, right? And then coupled with the nieces, nephews, and godchildren that we have, we get our fill of being quasi-parents, right? Even parenting when we need to. So we get our fill. It's okay.
Okay. Your promotion, your next promotion. Let's just fast forward to where you are now.
Sure.
Where are you now?
Sure. So now I'm serving as an administrative capacity at Central State University in Wilberforce, Ohio. Ironic, right across the street from Wilberforce University, my undergraduate institution, and my wife's alma mater. Is this nutty or what? Right? The planets, right? You know, someone told me once, right? Make a plan and no disrespect to anyone, right? But God will laugh, right? But I got a little chuckle on that one too, because make a plan and it might come to fruition if you work it right.
And it has for you.
And it has for me, right? So I'm serving as the Director of Student Support Services, which gives me an opportunity to help in a policy, budgetary, innovative programming space for students who come to our university and want supplemental experiences, supplemental help. And then I'm able to even, go beyond that and work largely and broadly with our entire population. So this is pretty cool. I'm having a good time.
Okay. Any other education?
So I went to University of Texas, Texas A&M for diversity education certification. Doctoral studies at the University of Cincinnati. I think they should be giving me some cash for this, right? No, it's a joke. Jokes. No, wonderful institutions, wonderful experiences, and very, very grateful for those institutions opening their doors and providing not only sound and heady curriculum, but a sound and heady curriculum in those respective institutions, but moreover having the foresight to make sure that there's some access points for folks to get educated in different ways.
Did the Air Force help pay for any of that?
So my undergraduate degree,
Yes.
because that was it. Because remember, that was my plan, right? When I finished, then I was done.
Okay. Okay. What have you done? What are some life lessons you've learned from the military?
So that's a good heady question. The military is a microcosm. And these are my Air Force experiences, right? I can't speak to the other branches of service. But for me, in my experience, the Air Force was a microcosm of the larger world here. There's a caste system, there's structure, there's opportunity, and can be, this might sound a bit academic, right? But there can be a sense of being debased. But that only happens, it happens because of the structure, right? It's very top down. I have to put that in context though of when I served, right? In the 80s, right? And through the 90s. I'm a Gulf War vet, right? So I looked at those kinds of experiences along the way and kind of think through, and I'm still kind of thinking through, like chicken and egg, right? right? What did I gain? I've gained a lot of experiences and a lot of exposure. But at the same time, my foundation was such that it helped me in my career, right? There were things that that weren't foreign, they weren't foreign to me. So I could make some connections, some easier connections, right? How to nuance the system for my advantage. The importance of networking, the importance of staying connected to the community while I was in service. I remember telling my civilian counterparts that yes, the Charles Lee speak, right? The difference between us right now is that I wear this uniform and you wear that uniform, which was, right, civilian attire. But in terms of the work that we were doing, it's all the same work, right? So we had to have some capacity, right, to perform, with some competency to get work done. So, yeah, I'll have to really give that some more thought.
Okay. I got another tough question coming up.
Sure, okay.
But I want to just jump back.
Please.
You were Gulf War combat veteran. You didn't, did you go and?
No,
okay.
no.
I just was, did I
no,
miss something?
no, you didn't. No.
No.
I think,
okay.
Well,
During
so
the time.
I was
right.
during the time. So,
Yes.
so yes, and that's fair. That's fair and that's honest, right? I do not, and nor would I ever want to intimate, suggest in any way, right, that I was in theater, right? This was a part of, it was the campaign, it was the Gulf War, and so all who served, and my heart, right, is off to all of those who were in theater, who had to go through that. But it's what we euphemistically say, it's what we signed up for, right?
Yes.
This can happen, right? And this is not to be played with. This is very serious. And if you, yeah.
Okay. Do you feel like there's anything that we haven't discussed or that should be added to this interview?
You've given me an opportunity to kind of like tease out a few things, and I didn't prepare for this. I did not. I was grateful that you sent me the links. I think I wanted to be as authentic and unbiased as possible, right? I wanted to be here to say, and this is my story, and these are the things I recall, and this is how I benefited, and these are some of the things that I chose and choose not to discuss, because there's some deep abiding pain associated with those experiences. But then we move on, right? And I sit here now as an Air Force veteran who had, I can say, I think, a stellar career.
Good word.
And if we use material, right, to solidify that, right, meaning, right, my NCO nominations, my awards, 12 Outstanding Airmen, the decorations and medals that I've acquired, and then honorable service, right? Because I have an honorable discharge, right? So yeah, that was that in a whole. That's appreciative and thank you, and thank you for this opportunity. This was good. And if I never ever see this, I hope that someone at some point will be able to say, there are possibilities, there's work to do, there's engagement to be had, but you got to be in the game. And if you're not in the game, then it's kind of hard, right, to win. So thank you.
I think you just covered my next question.
Okay.
But I have to ask it
Sure.
anyway. What message would you like to leave for future generations who will hear or see this video?
Wow. Echo underscore what I just said. And maybe I'll leave you. Maybe I can leave you with this. The choice to serve is yours. The numbers inform us that many choose not to for whatever reason. It doesn't make you better than anyone else. It's just a heady choice that you made to do this. So having said that, maintain your integrity through all things. Be open to the thoughts of others. And more importantly, ensure that your family is always intact.
Okay.
If you do those kinds of things, the planets might align for you.
Okay. Well, this concludes our interview. Thank you so much for your service